Hello, and welcome to the 2020 North Carolina Bike Walk Transportation Summit. This presentation is Public Transit and Riders with Disabilities. We will learn about a survey done in 2019 by Solutions for Independence and Center for Independent Living. The survey was taken by over 100 riders with disabilities and their experience using public transportation in rural Davidson County. Riders with disabilities in Lexington and Thomasville shared good experiences as well as barriers to riding fixed route transit and other transportation options in their community. This session will discuss the results of this survey. Our presenters are Karen Hamilton and Debbie Hennessy. Karen has more than 20 years of experience working together with the disability community to promote voluntary compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. As coordinator of the NCADA Network, which is an initiative of the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities, she supports advocates to learn about their rights and to take steps to improve accessibility for people with disabilities in their local communities. Debbie Hennessy is the Chief Operations Officer for Solutions for Independence and the Center for Independent Living in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. As a person with a disability, Debbie creates programs that help others with challenges live to their full potential. And now, to learn more about the survey and its results, I will turn the program over to Karen and Debbie.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here today. And Heidi, thank you for that wonderful introduction. This is our session on public transportation and riders with disabilities. Today, I'm going to briefly give it a brief overview, and then I'm going to turn the presentation over to Debbie. Today, we're going to discuss the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, and this is not an ADA training. We're just going to briefly tell you some information. Advocating for accessible transit, and then also, finally, and the most important part of our presentation is the Davidson County Transportation Survey, which was a collaborative effort between people with disabilities and a local transit authority. The Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, was signed into law in 1990. The intention of the ADA is to level the playing field and provide equal access to all areas of public life for people with disabilities. The ADA covers public accommodations, employment, transportation, state and local government services, and telecommunications. Basically, the ADA covers most areas of public life. And when we're talking about accessible transportation, we're not just talking about an accessible bus. There's all kinds of infrastructure and collaboration that has to happen in order for a bus system or even private transportation, accessible transportation to happen. You have to have accessible bus stops, accessible sidewalks, curb cuts, accessible crosswalks, and effective communication. And these are just to name a few. So as you can see just from these examples, we're talking about a collaboration between cities, transportation authorities, and the disability community. Now, I know that was a real brief overview of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but I just wanted to make sure that you know, and what's important to know is where to get your questions answered about accessible transit and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the first place I would recommend is the Southeast ADA Center. They're your regional resource center on the Americans with Disabilities Act, and they're located in Atlanta, Georgia. And we are, the North Carolina ADA Network is a partner of the Southeast ADA Center. Their phone number is 800-949-4232, and visit their website at adasoutheast.org. Another resource on accessible public transit that I have found extremely helpful is Easter Seals Project Action, and that's projectaction.com. They have all kinds of training and publications, and they are just really experts on what creative things that are happening across the country. So I would also suggest that you visit their website. When it comes to advocating for accessible transit, It's really about partnerships. And the most successful accessible transportation options are a result of partnerships with the disability community. That can mean and there's a lot of creative ways that can happen. Making sure that people with disabilities are on local transit advisory committees or city planning advisories. Some communities do what's called a mystery rider program, where they train people with disabilities, and then those individuals go for rides and do kind of like a secret shopper surveys. Another strategy that some communities use are they provide training for some local advocates, and they learn how to use an accessibility checklist, and then they may go out and access local bus stops to make for accessibility. One reason that's really important for people with disabilities to do that is that they can help prioritize which bus stops are most important to start on first. Maybe it's just a trash can that's in the way of it being accessible. So there may be some low cost solutions. So just basically getting people with disabilities and the disability community involved in accessible transit operations is very important. Another creative way that folks are working together is adopt a bus stop maintenance programs, where groups may volunteer to keep a bus stop free from barriers like trash cans in the wrong place, or things that might be a barrier for a person with disability trying to get to the bus stop. Also, a more informal way of sharing feedback with each other between transit and riders with disability is using social media to share information and share what's working and perhaps some barriers that people are having. A couple of years ago, the North Carolina ADA Network project, along with Disability Rights North Carolina, conducted a accessible transportation project where we work with local groups in different parts of the state to try out some creative ways to work with their local transit systems and collaborate together to improve accessible transit. And one of those projects was done by Solutions for Independent Living, and Debbie Hennessy led that up. And today I'm going to turn over the presentation to Debbie to tell us more about how her group and people with disabilities work together with a rural transportation authority to do some surveys and improve accessible transportation. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Debbie.
Thank you, Karen. The first thing we wanted to do was make contact with Davidson County Transportation, and we wanted to get their permission to conduct surveys. And they were extremely open to us doing that. They were very excited about us doing that, so that was a fantastic thing. We also used consumers at our center to go out and conduct surveys. So those were people with disabilities getting information from other folks that had disabilities too. So it was a very collaborative effort. We went out and basically canvassed for 2 days. And we met some awesome people. It was a great experience. So on the first slide you see there, that was actually one of the vehicles that they do use in Davidson County. All the vehicles are that size, with the exception of certain buses that go cross route. Next. We wanted our objective was to get information and feedback from 100 people, adults that had disabilities. That was our objective. And we wanted to determine how people with disabilities use the transit service. We were very interested in accessibility to that transit service. And how did the transit service and using durable medical equipment such as wheelchairs, canes, walkers, rollators, or even service animals, how did that work together with the transit that's provided? We're also interested in personal safety, because myself, as a person with a disability, I use a rollator now, And, sometimes getting on a bus can be dangerous. So we were very interested in that as well. There's a lot of awesome things about Davidson County transportation system, I just have to say. This service is free of charge. It is a grant-based service. Transfers are free of charge. There are fixed routes, 4 of those, serving Lexington, Thomasville, Davidson County Community College. Service runs from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And Thomasville has service from 6 to 6 on Saturday. Davidson County's website is truly exemplary. One of the things I did in my research, I visited transportation websites all over North Carolina and other states. This site, you can literally track the vehicle you're waiting for. You can also download an app on your smartphone and track the bus, so you know exactly where the bus is and how close it is. So the graphics on the website are absolutely incredible. So it's a stellar site. It's really something to view. The site is user friendly. I am not a tech genius or a guru. I don't really like tech stuff, but it was super friendly for me. So if it's friendly for me, most people will like it. There are various options for accessibility. So if you had perhaps some kind of visual disability, you could use Zoom and zoom in on certain sections of a map, or anywhere on the website, which is awesome. The maps come in different forms that are more friendly, and there's also a GPS. The map that you see here is actually signifies, you can see it's a vast area, the various routes and how far they travel. The people that completed the surveys had excellent experiences. And I think one main thing that I learned was that the staff that works at the transit service is exemplary, just exemplary, very helpful to people. We asked our riders, do you ride alone or do you usually ride with someone? And the reason we ask that question is, in the general public, people who don't have disabilities often think those of us that do can't do things alone. So as you can see here in these statistics, it's not because you're disabled or not disabled, but 60% of the people with disabilities ride alone regularly, and approximately 40% of them don't. Now, that also includes their service dogs, which they feel is a companion as well. 99% of the people we spoke with lived in Davidson County. We wanted to know, how often did they ride? Occasionally was 47%. Monday through Friday, we had a lot of people using this for work, 50%, and 3% less than once per week.
And Debbie, who were the people in this photo? There are 2 people standing beside of each other.
Okay, the gentleman in the greenish shirt that has the lanyard around his neck, that is Tim Blake. He was really charged ahead and excited about this and got out there. He visited many shelters, rescue missions, and they are a very high population that use this service. So, and they were awesome. We had a ball with these folks. And that is a gentleman that was staying at the center. All the participants did not want their names used. And here you see Tim in his green shirt and 3 young ladies that were also staying at a shelter. The ladies, I met these ladies, I took these photos, and they were just so friendly, and genuine, and they were really excited to do the surveys, and they went inside and got other people to come out and do surveys. We really had a great time doing this. It was a fantastic opportunity for us too.
Debbie, one of the things I'm impressed with is that the volunteers are actually writers of the bus system, and from all different kinds of groups. So sometimes we limit ourselves to who we involve and how we do a project. But it's so much better to involve people who actually live in the community or are using the service that you're working on.
Well, one thing that was part of our focus is we wanted to look at a diverse population. That's not simply, diversity as in ethnicity, but in age groups. So we worked with teens and people up into their 70s to get their feedback. Okay, this is basically a graph of the patron responses, the people that were riding transportation. People that completed these surveys were coming off the bus or waiting for the bus at the time. So I know it's a little small, so I'm going to try to explain. We asked folks if they knew their rights regarding accessible transportation, and by and far they did. We asked how many of them used this just to visit friends and family. Majority of them did. We asked about grocery shopping. Majority did. They used this to get their medication from the pharmacy. By far, that was one of the largest uses of the transportation. We also asked about doctor's visits, and that was a commonality in this group. They said the routes were almost 50% said the routes were very convenient. They said more than 50% said the routes met their needs. They overwhelmingly said the drivers were helpful. We asked them if they encountered difficulties while riding transit. Basically, no. And we asked, did they enjoy using the system, which I think is a big thing. If you hate to ride the bus, you're not going to ride the bus. And overwhelmingly, they loved riding the bus. It was an enjoyable opportunity for them. Okay, here you'll see Tim in his green shirt, and this is a gentleman who was from another shelter. And we wanted to ask them, if you think about buses, I used to live in the city. Sometimes I had to take another type of transportation to get to my destination, or I'd have to have someone meet me at the bus stop. So in this situation, we asked if they used any kind of secondary service or a friend or family member to get to the final destination. And it was close to 50% they did. And then it was 41% that didn't. So, and some occasionally did. So it was pretty much weather related. It was excessively hot. They might have a family member come pick them up, or excessively cold. Otherwise, a lot of them would just walk. We wanted to know about assistive technology and when riding, and this is very important, as our staff are people with disabilities ourselves, and a lot of us do use assistive technology. 2 of our participants used a power chair. 2 sometimes used a manual wheelchair. 45, which was the largest group, used a cane walker or a rollator, and 39 needed assistance to get up into the bus itself.
Debbie, may I ask you a question? When you say assistance to enter and exit the bus, what is that? What kind of assistance? Is that using the ramp, or is it or lift?
Most of the time, it would be the people I spoke with. Most of the time, it would be they might have, let's say, a cane, but they weren't steady on their feet. And the drivers would go right down to ground level and assist them up the steps, which
Oh, wow.
I thought was a wonderful thing. And they said that they so appreciated these people, that they worked so hard and they went the extra mile. So it was really incredible. Another thing is safety, and I think we're all concerned with safety wherever we go, whether we're driving, we're in a bus, we're in a train. So we asked all the participants, do you feel safe? And 92% of them said they did. They felt completely safe. This is another one of the vehicles that Davidson County uses. That's the Blue Line. They're very nice. They're clean. I've been inside. They were immaculate. We asked if the system was meeting their needs as people with disabilities. And overwhelmingly, yes. 92% of the participants said yes. It did meet their needs, and they were very satisfied.
Debbie, are any of the buses in the fleet, do they, any of them have lifts, or they're able to lower?
Yeah, some of them are kneeling.
Really?
And then some of them have, you can look at this particular vehicle, and to the rear, you can see there's actually a door there. That's a double door. So that can extend out and, for instance, lift a power chair in.
Great.
So they're not all exactly the same because they're from different dates, but overwhelmingly, they did have the technology for any rider.
Okay. And are you able to tell which buses are accessible on the website, or are they all accessible?
Well, they're all marked as being accessible.
That's fantastic.
It's awesome. And there you see a service animal right there. We asked the participants, do you have a service animal? 13% said they did. The remainder, I also wanted to know, did you have a problem with the service animal on the bus? And at the office, we get a lot of complaints about taking service animals on a bus or in a restaurant, in a store. We constantly deal with that. So that was really important to me. And 92% reported no issues with their service animal when riding. The important thing to remember here is that the issue was never with the driver, it was with the other people in the bus. So, someone's afraid of a dog, or, whatever the reason, and they get upset. They reported their issues within the bus were resolved to their satisfaction. This is a graph basically of the different routes by color. They are color coded, and the use of those routes. And the blue route is the most popular route. So you can ride a blue route bus, and then you can transfer to any other bus, and there's no fee for that. So it's completely free.
And Debbie, I remember you telling me that the transit director really appreciated the fact that you helped them with this survey, because it wasn't something they had funds to do, or
that's exactly right,
personnel to do. So this was extremely helpful for the transportation director.
And I think it's whoever you are, it's good to get positive feedback. And that's something, you can share with others, and also with your coworkers. I know as an employee, I love to hear we did a good job. That's the most important thing. And I think with this information, that gentleman's able to tell his staff, you guys did great.
And and as advocates, sometimes it's easy to focus on the barriers and not what's really working. And so we need to identify both so that we can give feedback that can really be helpful to people and organizations we're working with.
I agree. We want to say thank you from us in the field, and then to Karen, of course. Davidson County Transportation was awesome. They were just great. Richard Jones is the manager. He was enthusiastic, willing to spend time to talk to me and to talk with Tim Blake about the service, how it's funded through a grant. All the folks that participated in the surveys, that took the time, it was really, really hot those 2 days. And we had bottled water everywhere. It was hot. And people, took the time. Everybody's in a rush nowadays, but they took the time to complete the surveys. Um, the staff, they're just awesome people. People would write comments on the surveys about certain people, like so and so is just awesome, and oh, so and so is always so pleasant, and always has a smile. It's incredible. I want to say also, the volunteers, our consumers that went out in the field, and our staff people that were out there, and it felt like 120. They just forged ahead. They drank their water and they did awesome. It was a great experience, and it was a good learning experience for everybody. And the people of Davidson County, we approached all kinds of people, spoke to people. People came up to us and asked us questions. They want to know, that's their community. And they were just awesome folks. We had a ball doing this. It was great.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much for sharing about your project. And I will say that each of the communities that we worked with 3 different communities, chose to do something different. I mean, because something that met the needs of their community. And for your community, it was doing the survey and working with and doing something that was a win-win for both the Transportation Authority and for you and the people that you serve. In another community in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, they worked with their transit authority to do surveys of bus stops so that the
Okay.
could determine which bus stops had some accessibility issues. And they also helped them prioritize which ones they should work on first so that they can make their money go. Sometimes they're limited funds, and the disability community can help prioritize some of those things. So each community is different. The other thing I was impressed about your project is the fact that you really focused on not only identifying barriers, but what is really working, and also how important it is to tell people that they're doing a good job. If they're doing, I mean, sometimes we hear too much about folks not doing a good job, and we really want to, and it really is all about attitudes are the biggest barrier to accessibility or the biggest help to accessibility. And it sounds like that's true in Davidson County.
Absolutely. I mean, these folks are very, very communicative. They talk to each other, they talk to us. They want to tell you how good it is. And even if there was a problem, they were like, oh, I called and they remedied it right away. And that's like exactly what I want to hear. That's awesome. So it was a fantastic opportunity. I really enjoyed this project. This was actually fun.
And Debbie, what advice would you give to other advocates in other parts of the state if they wanted to help improve accessible transit in their community? It may not look exactly like this, but what would you tell them to do first?
Well, I think the first thing I would suggest they visit this website and that they view this PowerPoint first of all, because it has good information. I think that you can only really understand accessibility issues if you have to deal with those issues. So I would encourage them to ask people in their community who have disabilities to give feedback about their travels, their use of different types of transit. How do they manage, what kind of expenses involved, is that a detriment? I think in this situation, the good thing for me about being a person with a disability is I've been there and I know what it's like. And I think it's hard for people that, never have had to struggle with, particularly like physical disabilities where you can't get yourself up into the bus or get yourself down or you're afraid to fall. It's really something you can't understand unless you've been there. And I think that was the great part of having our staff and our consumers involved, because the majority had physical disabilities and they knew exactly what it was about to get up in that bus or whether they could do it or not. So I think you need to go to the source.
Yeah.
You have to start at the source.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. And we just appreciate the opportunity to share about some of the things that we're doing and some ideas and things that we have learned today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed our session. If you have any questions, just let us know. Bye.